I opened the safe. Empty. For $100,000. Gone. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. Instead, I laughed. A deep, hollow laugh that echoed through the room like a bad joke. Because I already knew. She took it. And I knew exactly where she was. I grabbed my keys and walked out the door. Not in a rush, not in a panic, just ready to end this game once and for all. I drove through the city with a strange calm settling over me. The betrayal should have burned, should have made my blood boil. But instead, I felt something colder certainty. I had known for months that something was off. The fake smiles, the last-minute girls' nights, the way she suddenly started dressing up just to go to the grocery store. At first, I chalked it up to boredom, maybe some midlife crisis. But then I started paying attention. The late-night phone calls that ended the moment I walked into the room. The whispered conversations. The way she changed the password on her laptop. And now, the final proof. The money was gone. She thought she had one. She thought she had pulled off the perfect escape. She was wrong. I parked outside the hotel. It wasn't a five-star resort, nothing flashy, but it was discreet. The kind of place you went when you didn't want to be found. I already knew the room number. I walked through the lobby like I belonged there, nodding at the receptionist, my hands in my pockets. The elevator ride up was silent except for the dull hum of electricity. The number 17 lit up. I stepped out and moved down the hallway, past overpriced art and dimly lit sconces, until I reached the door. Room 1708. I knocked once. No answer. I knocked again, harder this time. I heard rustling inside, hurried movements, the muffled sound of whispers. Then, finally, the lock clicked open just a crack. Her face appeared in the doorway, and in that split second, I saw everything. The shock, the panic, the guilt. And behind her? A half-dressed man, frozen like a deer in headlights. I smiled. Not because I was happy, because I had been waiting for this moment. Surprised to see me, Emily? I asked, keeping my voice calm. She hesitated, her lips parting slightly as if searching for the right lie to spin. But there were no lies that could save her now. She glanced behind her, probably hoping to stall, to think of some excuse, but I wasn't in the mood for games. I pushed the door open with one firm shove, and she stumbled back. The guy, mid-30s, gym body, dumb expression, was still standing there shirtless, clutching a pair of pants like he didn't know whether to run or beg for his life. Who the hell is this? I asked, nodding toward him, even though I already knew. Emily crossed her arms, trying to regain control. It's not what it looks like. I laughed. A real, deep laugh that probably made me sound unhinged. Not what it looks like. Really? You're standing in a hotel room with some half-naked clown, and you want to tell me it's not what it looks like? She scowled, shifting her weight onto one hip. I don't have to explain myself to you. I nodded slowly, pretending to think. That's true. But maybe you should explain what happened to the $400,000 you stole from me. That hit her like a punch to the gut. Her confident act cracked, just for a second. Her eyes darted away toward her purse. I was faster. I reached it before she could, grabbed it, and dumped the contents onto the bed. A couple of credit cards, lipstick, car keys, and a hotel room key with someone else's name on it. Whose name is this, Emily? I asked, holding up the key card. She snatched it from my hand. None of your damn business. The guy, who had been silent up until now, finally spoke. Dude, I don't want any trouble. I cut him off. Too late for that, buddy. I stepped closer, making him shrink back. You knew she was married? His mouth opened, but no words came out. Guilty. I shook my head, turning back to Emily. I trusted you. I gave you everything. And you repay me by running off with some guy and my money? She rolled her eyes. You're so dramatic. It's not like you needed it. That was it. That was the moment I realized she never loved me. Not really. Not the way a wife should love her husband. I was a bank account to her, a safety net. I took a deep breath, then did the only thing left to do. I walked out. But not before making sure she would regret this for the rest of her miserable life. As I stepped out of the hotel room, I felt the weight of betrayal settle in, but it wasn't sadness, it was clarity. She had never been my wife in the way that mattered. She had played a role, worn a mask, and now that it had slipped, all that was left was a greedy, lying thief. But she had underestimated me. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. A few taps later, I was in my banking app. One final transfer. A smirk tugged at my lips as I watched the numbers drop to zero. The money she thought she had stolen? It was never hers to take. I had moved the entire $400,000 into a private account before I even opened the safe. The one she had emptied? It was a trap. A test to see if she would do exactly what I suspected. And she failed. I leaned against the wall, letting out a slow breath. A text came through from my lawyer, confirming that everything was in place. Divorce papers, a full asset freeze, and even a fraud investigation that would ensure she walked away with nothing. The door behind me burst open, and Emily stormed into the hallway, barefoot, wild-eyed. "You son of a..." I held up my phone. "Looking for this?" I tilted the screen toward her, showing her the empty account balance. "Oops." Her face twisted in fury. "You think this is funny?" I shrugged. "A little. You thought you could screw me over and live happily ever after with your boy toy? Guess what, Emily? You get nothing." She lunged at me, but I sidestepped, letting her stumble forward. "I gave you everything," I said, voice calm. "And you threw it away. So enjoy your new life. Hope he's got deep pockets because you're broke." I turned and walked toward the elevator, leaving her standing there, screaming my name in rage. As the doors slid shut, I did something I hadn't done in years. I smiled. I walked out of that hotel feeling lighter than I had in years. The cold air hit my face as I stepped onto the street, and for the first time in a long time, I felt free. No more lies. No more manipulations. No more fake love from a woman who only saw me as a walking ATM. I got into my car, started the engine, and just sat there for a moment, letting everything sink in. The anger, the betrayal, the months of suspicion, it was all over. She was out of my life. And the best part? She had no idea just how deep I had cut her off. Her accounts? Frozen. Her access to my assets? Revoked. Her little dream of running away with my money? Shattered. And then, just as I was about to pull away, my phone rang. Blocked number. I already knew who it was. I let it ring a few times before finally answering. "You're gonna regret this," Emily hissed through the phone. Her voice was raw, desperate. I laughed. Really laughed. "Regret what?" "Making sure you got exactly what you deserved." "I swear to God, I'll make you pay for this," she spat. "Emily," I said, shaking my head. "You already lost." I hung up before she could say another word and tossed the phone onto the passenger seat. She was predictable. I knew she would try something else, try to dig her claws back in, but it was too late. She had burned the bridge. And just as I was pulling away from the curb, I saw her come running out of the hotel, still barefoot, still in that ridiculous silk robe she probably put on for him. I watched her spin in circles, looking around frantically. She had nowhere to go. No money. No backup plan. No way out. I rolled down the window just enough for her to hear me. "Hey, Emily," I called out. She turned, eyes burning with rage. I smirked. "Enjoy your new life." Then I hit the gas and left her standing there, alone in the cold. I didn't look back. As I merged onto the highway, the city lights blurred into streaks of white and red, and for the first time in years, I felt in control. No more second-guessing, no more paranoia. Just me, my freedom, and the road ahead. But I knew Emily wasn't done. She was like a cornered animal now, dangerous, desperate, and completely out of options. And a woman like that? She wasn't going to go down quietly. I parked outside my house and walked in, locking the door behind me. The place felt different. Not because she was gone, because I was done with her. I poured myself a drink and sat on the couch, staring at the empty space where her stupid designer bags used to pile up. She had always needed more money, more attention, more validation. And when I stopped giving it, she went looking for it elsewhere. My phone buzzed. Another blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. Then another call. And another. She was unraveling. I turned the phone off, leaned back, and exhaled. Then bang. A loud thud against my front door. Then another. I stood up, heart steady. I already knew who it was. I walked over and opened the door. There she was. Hair wild, eyes red with fury, wearing a coat thrown over that same silk robe. And behind her, a taxi idling with the driver watching nervously. She tried to push past me, but I stepped in her way. "Let me in," she snapped. I took a slow sip from my glass. Why would I do that? Her hands clenched into fists. "We need to talk." I leaned against the doorframe, completely calm. "Talk? Like how you talked in that hotel room." Her nostrils flared. "You're making a mistake." I laughed. "You stole from me, lied to me, cheated on me, and you think I'm making the mistake?" She crossed her arms. "You're not perfect either." I tilted my head. "Oh? Tell me, Emily, what exactly did I do?" She faltered for just a second. Just long enough for me to see it, the panic. She had nothing. "You're an asshole," she spat. "That's what you did." I nodded slowly, setting my drink down on the side table. Then, in one smooth motion, I shut the door in her face. The second the lock clicked, the screaming started. She pounded on the door, shouting every insult she could think of, switching between rage and fake sobbing. I let her. After about 5 minutes, the pounding stopped. Then I heard the car door slam, the taxi pulling away. I exhaled, grabbed my drink, and sat back down. And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt completely at peace. The silence after she left was almost unsettling. Almost. I finished my drink, turned my phone back on, and scrolled through the missed calls, 11 from a blocked number, 3 from her old friend Laura, and 1 from an unknown number. I didn't bother listening to the voicemails. Emily wasn't giving up. I knew her too well. She wasn't the type to accept consequences. She was the type to scheme, manipulate, find a new angle. And if she couldn't take me down emotionally, she'd try to destroy me any other way she could. I had no doubts that she'd tell everyone we knew that I was the villain, that I was abusive, cruel, a monster. She'd rewrite the entire story to make herself the victim. That's what people like her did. They never lost, they only played the game harder. And that's why I had already been 3 steps ahead. The legal team was in place. The fraud charges were ready to go. The proof of her affair? Screenshots, hotel receipts, video footage from the security cameras in the hallway. She wanted to play dirty? Fine. I had the final move. I took a deep breath and opened my laptop, logged into my account, pulled up the file labeled Final Play. Inside, every piece of dirt I had on her. Every lie. Every stolen dollar. Every text she thought she deleted. She thought she could walk away from this and still land on her feet. She had no idea she was already falling. I clicked send. The file went straight to my lawyer with a simple message, time to bury her. I leaned back, stretching my arms behind my head, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. Let her scream. Let her call everyone she knew. Let her try to play the victim. She could lie all she wanted. Because by the time she realized what I had done, she'd already be drowning. The next morning, the storm hit. I woke up to my phone vibrating nonstop. Texts, missed calls, voicemails. Emily was in full meltdown mode. I ignored them and scrolled through my emails instead. One from my lawyer. Everything is in motion. You'll be hearing from her soon. Perfect. I took my time getting out of bed, stretching, enjoying the feeling of knowing that, for the first time in years, I didn't owe anyone an explanation. By the time I made breakfast, my phone rang again. Emily. I let it go to voicemail. Then another call. Laura. This one I picked up. Morning, Laura. I took a sip of coffee. What does Emily want? She's losing it, Laura whispered. She called me crying at 4 in the morning, saying you ruined her life. I smirked. That's so? She says you froze her accounts, got lawyers involved, and she hesitated. And she's saying you were abusive. I exhaled slowly. There it was. The last, desperate move of a woman with no options left. She's calling everyone, telling them you were controlling, that you took her money, that she had to leave because she was scared. I chuckled. Let me guess, she's hoping someone offers her a place to stay? Silence. Yeah, Laura admitted. She asked me. I leaned against the counter, shaking my head. Classic. She never had a plan, I muttered. She thought she'd take my money, run off with that idiot from the hotel, and live happily ever after. Now she's realizing she's broke, homeless, and no one's buying her sob story. Laura sighed. Look, I don't want to get involved, but she's talking about going to the police. I laughed. A full, genuine laugh. Of course she was. For what? I asked. For taking back the money she tried to steal? For divorcing her after she cheated? I don't know, Laura admitted. But she's desperate. And desperate people do crazy things. I let that sink in. Laura was right. Emily wasn't just angry, she was scared. And that made her unpredictable. But it didn't matter. Because she had nothing. No money. No leverage. No proof of any of the lies she was about to start spreading. I'd already won. So I smiled, finished my coffee, and said the only thing left to say. Let her try. An hour later, the first explosion hit. A knock at the door. Not a soft one. A hard, impatient, authoritative knock. I already knew who it was before I even looked through the peephole. 2 cops. I sighed, took one last sip of my coffee, and opened the door. Morning, gentlemen, I said, leaning against the frame like I had all the time in the world. What can I do for you? The older one, a stocky guy with a mustache that looked like it had been around since the 90s, cleared his throat. Sir, We need to ask you a few questions regarding a domestic dispute reported by your wife. There it was. Emily's last, desperate card. I kept my expression neutral. Domestic dispute? The younger cop, a tall guy who looked fresh out of the academy, gave me that fake sympathetic look. Your wife alleges that you were physically and financially abusive. She says you took all of her money, locked her out of the house, and left her stranded. I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I folded my arms. Tell me, officers, do you have a report of any physical injuries? They exchanged a look. They didn't. I continued. Or maybe some financial records that show I took her money. More silence. I let it hang there for a second before shaking my head. Look, I'll make this easy for you. My lawyer already has the divorce case in motion, along with proof that my wife not only stole from me but was also cheating on me. The older cop adjusted his belt. That's between you and your lawyer, sir. Right now, we just need to confirm your whereabouts last night. I smirked. I was right here. You can check my security cameras if you'd like. I have full recordings of her banging on my door like a lunatic at 2 in the morning. That made them pause. The younger one frowned. You have security cameras? I pointed up at the small but very obvious camera above my front door. And inside too. Everything is backed up. If you need footage, I'll gladly hand it over. They knew they had nothing. Emily thought she could play the victim, but she forgot one thing. I was smarter than her. After a few more questions, they left. No arrest. No charges. Nothing. 10 minutes later, I sent my lawyer a simple text. It's time to bury her. Because Emily didn't just lose. She burned herself to the ground. I leaned back on my couch, stretching my legs out, feeling the kind of peace that only comes when you watch your enemy self-destruct. Emily thought she could destroy me. Instead, she destroyed herself. My lawyer called an hour later. She's spiraling, he said, his voice laced with amusement. Her so-called police report isn't going anywhere, and now she's scrambling to find someone to back up her story. I smirked. Let me guess, no one is buying it. Not a single person, he confirmed. Her friends are ghosting her. And the guy from the hotel? He bailed the moment he found out she had no money. I laughed. Of course he did. This was the part she never saw coming. She thought she was untouchable. Thought she could cry, lie, manipulate her way back into control. But the problem with people like her? They never think ahead. Now she had nothing. No money. No house. No backup plan. Just a ruined reputation and a pile of bad decisions. My lawyer sighed. She's going to try something else. Women like her always do. I smiled, swirling the whiskey in my glass. Let her. I already knew what was coming next, the pity tour. She'd show up at someone's door, crying about how cruel I was, how unfair it all was. Maybe some naive idiot would let her crash for a few nights. But it wouldn't last. Because the second they saw what she really was, they'd throw her out just like I did. And the best part? I didn't even have to lift a finger. She did it all to herself. By the time the sun went down, I was sitting on my balcony, enjoying a quiet night, completely free. Emily was out there somewhere, probably still trying to figure out how everything went so wrong. And me? I was finally done with her. 3 days passed. 3 days of absolute silence. No calls. No texts. No cops at my door. Emily had vanished. I wasn't stupid. I knew she was still out there, licking her wounds, trying to figure out how to crawl her way back into someone else's life. But she wasn't my problem anymore. Then, on the 4th day, my lawyer called. She finally cracked, he said, sounding amused. Oh. I leaned back in my chair, already knowing this was going to be good. She tried filing a civil lawsuit against you. I actually laughed out loud. Desperate. So desperate. What's her angle? I asked, just for the fun of it. She's claiming emotional damages, financial manipulation, wrongful eviction, the usual nonsense. I smirked. And what are her chances? Less than 0, my lawyer said flatly. She has no proof, no assets, and no credibility left. The judge will throw it out the second we show up with the fraud charges and security footage. Perfect, I said, sipping my coffee. So what happens next? Well, my lawyer said she's officially homeless. She tried staying with a few friends, but they kicked her out once they realized she wasn't some poor victim, just a lying, cheating gold digger. I grinned. Exactly as I predicted. And the guy from the hotel? I asked. Gone, he confirmed. Probably the second he realized she had nothing to offer him. I sighed dramatically. Per Emily. Who could have seen this coming? My lawyer chuckled. What do you want to do? Press forward with the fraud charges or let her crash and burn on her own? I thought about it for a second. I could bury her completely, make sure she had a criminal record, destroy any chance she had at a future. But then I smiled. No, I said. I won't even waste the energy. She's already ruined herself. There was a pause on the other end. So that's it. That's it, I confirmed. I'm done. And I was. No revenge. No dragging it out. No second thoughts. She had tried to take me down, and instead, she destroyed herself. That was better than any revenge I could have planned. That night, I poured myself a drink, stepped out onto my balcony, and looked at the city lights. The weight was gone. I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. I was just free. And Emily? She was out there somewhere, alone, with nothing but her own reflection to blame. Game over.